Hi, this is Brad from the Adam Sandler film. I'm calling because I'd like to check an available work date with you. If you're interested in this opportunity, please call me back at my office number. Again, that date is July 17th. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Dwinells, and what you just heard, Spookaroos, was the sound of Hollywood calling. That's right, your boy, host of Spooky Ass Shit, is going to be in the new Adam Sandler Netflix movie, I guess you call him, Hubie's Halloween. Now, I would not have gone to a casting call for an Adam Sandler movie in general. However, a Halloween movie, I don't care who's doing it. Count me in. They asked us to come to this casting call in costume because it's a Halloween thing. So I went as the one and only Macho Man Randy Savage, although we're off-brand, I suppose. So without the legal right to use the character's name, I suppose we will call him Randy Man Macho Savage. How about that? And I got the call, the one you just heard. I called Brad from casting back. We discussed the date. We discussed the scene that they would like to use me in. And so that is what I will be doing on July 17th. I'll be going to film my part in this movie. It is set at a Halloween carnival. And I will be there as Randy Man Macho Savage. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm just going to be an extra. But it's all true, everything I just said. But, to make it sound like my part in the movie, that's maybe a bit much. I'm looking forward to it because, as someone who grew up loving Halloween movies, Halloween specials, one of the things I always enjoyed about the movies is that the people that were there had their costumes and they always looked really extravagant. And I always thought, this isn't real life. I mean, it would be nice if it was, but for the most part, this isn't real life. This is, Hollywood stuff where people are wearing these real elaborate costumes and everything, and everyone looks really great on Halloween. So now, I get to be one of those people. And I did make my own costume, by the way. Well, actually, had a little help from once and future guest Emily Ferguson. She helped me create the robe, and I did the rest, though. So it was a joint effort, but I'm looking forward to doing it. I am looking forward to portraying Macho Man, Randy Man, on screen. I believe this is the first Hollywood portrayal of the Macho Man. So I believe I'm the first actor to tackle the role. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody out there. Alright, I am recording this intro on the new digital recorder. I am not using my fancy microphones that I normally use. I'm just using the recorder. And I want to see how it sounds. I did some tests and it sounded pretty good. This is just using the internal microphone on the unit. So let me know what you think of the sound of this. It's not something I'll do all the time, but what I really like about it is it's just press the record button and you're good to go. And this is thanks to you guys. So thank you to everybody who contributed to the GoFundMe campaign. By the time you hear this, it will have been taken down, so it's too late to donate. But don't worry, we'll do another pledge drive, I guess you could call it, later on. Now, I told you this is not a full new episode because I am taking some time off from the show to work on the show, actually. So I have been working, trust me, I've been working very hard on some upcoming episodes for August, and I don't want to give away exactly what the theme will be just yet. However, I will say that this episode that I'm replaying for you tonight is a bit of a hint. So listen to this episode and see if you can discover some hidden messages as we talk about backmasking. Still hard for me to say. You'll hear me mention that on the episode. This is one that I did with Mr. Brian Toney, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I definitely enjoyed recording it. It is an older episode, so the sound quality is maybe a little bit wonky, but I'm going to try to bump it up here as I remix this episode. But there's only so much I can do. It was recorded a little bit poorly, so the master file is not not great condition. But hey, it was the early days, man. I was just figuring this shit out, and I'm still figuring this shit out. Next week's episode will also be another remix episode with an even bigger clue as to what the August episodes will be about. And then, I think there's one more week in July after that, and then that one will be a mini episode, a little preview of things to come. So that's the plan, and I guess that's all I have to say as we launch into this remix episode. Look, hey man, I gotta go make a movie. I'll try to remember all you little people. Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Donnells. My guest co-host tonight is Brian Toney. I forgot to ask if you wanted some kind of introduction.
I don't.
Okay. You're just Brian Toney.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're not going to tell you what he does or anything.
No artifice, yeah. Well, Tom didn't plug his thing, right?
He said he was a comedian.
Oh, he did? All right. Yeah.
He did not plug his upcoming date at Laugh Boston on March 2nd. But
well, we just did it right there. So.
Yeah. Who knows if this will be up by March 2nd. But if it is, March 2nd,
go
2016.
See Tom.
Go see
also
Tom Cole.
possibly Eric.
Not on the 2nd, on the 9th.
Oh, all right. See, I'm terrible at this. That's why we don't do it up top.
Yeah.
All right.
Tonight's episode is about backmasking, which is a term that they use in music, and it was actually pioneered by a little group called the Beatles.
Nice.
They did actually do it intentionally, but it was just instrumentation, because John Lennon got high one night and accidentally hit the reverse button on their tape deck or whatever, and he heard his instrumentation backwards, and he said, hey, that sounds really cool. And then the next day he presented it to the other Beatles, and they all liked it, so it ended up on the record.
But just instrumental.
Just instrumental.
No words. Okay.
No words. But from there, once people realized that they had done that, people started looking for backmasking in other records. And they thought that they could hear messages in the music.
Spectacular.
Oh, by the way, the first song that the Beatles used the backmasking on was Rain.
Oh, nice.
Not one of their biggest hits, yet they have a tribute band named Rain.
Yeah.
The Beatles' Rain.
I like that song.
Not a bad song. Not one of my favorites.
Certainly a slower, lower fi one.
All right, so in 1969, there was an American DJ named Russ Gibb who received a phone call from a listener who asked him about the rumor that Paul McCartney had died and been replaced by an imposter Paul. He said that there was some proof in the Beatles song Revolution No. 9, which contained the backward message confirming this rumor. So Gibb said he didn't know about it, but he played the song backwards on his turntable and heard, "Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man."
All right.
Where it normally says number 9.
Yeah.
Number 9. So do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, that's extremely dubious, I would say. I mean, I could easily believe that the Beatles would do something like that if they thought that they could, just to mess with people, because that was kind of something that they did, but that sounds like... My question is, how... I don't remember ever having like a record player or a cassette player where you could listen to stuff backwards. How did these people figure this out in 1970?
Yeah, no, it did require some sophisticated machinery. It wasn't an everyman kind of thing.
Okay, so this really took some effort.
Yeah,
but yeah, as to the we're talking about Revolution No. 9 right now, and yeah, that I'm not on board with that one.
Gibb began telling his listeners about what he called the Great Cover-Up, and the original clues were added to various other songs, including the alleged backmasked message, "Paul is dead, man. Miss him, miss him, miss him," in the song "I'm So Tired." Did you catch that?
I did. No, I heard Dead Man a little more clearly in that one.
Yeah,
it
allegedly
like
backwards what he said was, "Paul is dead, man. Miss him, miss him, miss him."
I kind of heard that, but you already said that, earlier in the episode, so
Okay.
I'm sure I was at least a little primed. But that
All right.
sounded more like intent, like they actually intended it to sound like words backwards. But I don't know how they would have had the skill set to know how to do that. But I don't know. They were pretty forward thinkers.
There's
Okay.
also a lot of alleged clues on the cover to Abbey Road.
Or he's like barefoot on one of the album
Yeah.
covers. Okay,
I don't know why. There was some reason why barefoot meant that he was dead, but I forget what it was supposed to be.
because reasons.
We're talking about backmasking, not bare feet.
Next time.
Yeah. Yes, we'll do a whole episode on just the barefoot death.
You won't want to miss that. Spooky rating 1.5.
Yeah. After that show, people began to look for messages in other songs. Originally, it was done by rock fans who just thought it was like a fun thing that some bands did to add in like little messages. But then, starting in the late 70s, during the rise of the Christian right, these
There we go.
yeah, those
Now
Christians coming at it
now
again.
it's getting fun.
The fundamentalist Christian right started listening too, and they found, surprise, surprise, satanic messages
Oh, of course.
in the music.
Oh, that's interesting, though. I would have guessed that, like, the alarmists would have been the first to start looking for this, but apparently it was actual music fans who were just kind of trying to add a little something extra to their music that they already liked.
Yeah.
All right. I'm learning.
So the reason that the Christian groups became concerned about all this backmasking that they thought was going on was because they began to claim that backmasked messages could bypass the conscious mind and reach into your subconscious, where you would be unknowingly accepting the messages that it's giving to you,
All right.
and possibly leading you into a life of sin
Sounds deeply scientific.
and even possible devil worship,
Well, sure.
if some of these bands had their way.
Okay, but they came to it later? They came to it after the Beatles?
Yeah,
or
this
did
was in
they...
the late 70s. Yep.
The late 70s. But did they go back and
Oh, yes, because
and find the Beatles stuff and like, oh, this is
not
this
just
is
the
also
Beatles.
that.
There was a lot of classic rock songs. Perhaps most famously, in this song, which I'm not even going to tell you what song it is. Here's what I'm going to do first, okay? This is the one that I recorded myself, hoping to avoid
Yeah.
any cease and desist lawsuits, okay?
Eric making his own Satan jams.
So listen to the track and tell me what words, if anything, you think you can pick out, okay?
Okay.
Did you get
Is
anything?
that it? I got absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Like there were certain syllables that I thought might be going somewhere, but they were only syllables.
Okay. Well, I posted this on Facebook to do a
Okay.
very super scientific experiment.
Yes.
I posted on Facebook and I said basically the same thing I just said. I said, please listen to this track and tell me what words, phrases, or sentences you may be able to pick out, if any.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't say why or anything. That's all I did. And then I posted the track. And a bunch of people said they could hear the words "my mother."
Really?
Pretty much everyone, either they said they couldn't hear anything, or if they said they heard anything, they all agreed that they could hear "my mother."
Okay.
And then a couple people had some other words that they could find. Someone said they heard Red sing. Someone said love. Jenny Blades was being a smartass and said, I buried Paul. And then, yeah, mother.
I mean, I kind of heard red, but that's just a syllable. Like,
Yeah. Everybody said mother that responded.
it's weird.
That said they heard it. So now let me give you a list of words.
Oh, okay.
And because when I listen to it, knowing what the real version is supposed to contain, I don't hear everything that the real version is supposed to contain.
Mm-hmm.
But I do hear certain words. So let me tell you these words, and then we're going to listen to it again and see if you can pick out these words.
Okay.
Okay? Sweet. Satan. My mother made a bad boy.
Such a complete thought.
His power is Satan.
His power is Satan.
My mother, who suffers their fate.
Oh,
Now, those
geez.
aren't all supposed to be together necessarily, except for the ones that I read together.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to be here. You might be able to hear all of those things
All right.
as you listen. So now that you know those words, which were sweet, Satan, my mother made a bad boy,
That's my favorite.
his power is Satan, my mother, who suffers their fate.
Okay.
So
let's
6
go.
different things to listen for. They're in that order, but not necessarily right next to each
So
other.
my mother's in there twice, theoretically. Wow. All right. Yeah. So this time I heard the areas that were supposed to sound like that. They still didn't sound like. I can pick it out.
Sure.
I can pick out.
If you were stretching, you could say, yeah.
I can pick out the part with the my favorite one. I picked that one out. Made a bad boy. I heard that. I heard like half of Satan. It was
Okay.
like Satan, and then it stopped.
So what I did was I presented those words on Facebook as well. I made that list. And the mother stuff I included because people said they could hear it, and I could sort of hear it too. So that's when I made the list. But then people said they could definitely hear my mother. And then when they looked at the words, one woman said, "I only heard my mother the first time, but when I saw your other post, and then listened to it again, I heard my mother made a bad boy." And then another person said they could hear "Who Suffers Their Fate," as well as my mother. Everyone agreed my mother was in there.
Are we allowed to say what song this is supposed to be, or?
I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it for you. Do you know? Do you have a guess?
Well, no, I don't even know what time period we're in at this
Okay.
point. You say it's one of the most famous examples of this.
Oh, yeah.
Though? All right. Is it Judas Priest?
No.
Oh, okay. So
Ready?
that's the one I know.
Here it is. Forward.
If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now.
How about that?
It's just a spring clean for the May Queen.
See, I never knew that.
Yes,
this
there
song was-
are 2 paths you can go by, but in the long run,
Don't judge my singing. huh?
there's still time to change the road you're on.
He doesn't
I
hold
also
that
didn't
note
know
out
that those
either,
were the words to that song.
Going to the internet.
I believe it.
But listen. So, what's interesting is when you play that backwards on the original version,
It's a little more believable.
what he says, they say, is, "Here's to my sweet Satan, the one whose little path would make me sad, whose power is Satan.
Yeah.
He will give those with him 666." And this is my favorite part. "There was a little tool shed where he made us suffer. Sad Satan."
Wait, I
Now,
have
if
so many
anything-
questions
If
right
anything,
now.
that sounds anti-Satan to me.
I have a lot of questions. So apparently our subconscious can be permeated by like really bad sentence structure and things that make zero sense. I don't understand. Where does someone create this, or where does it begin in someone's head? Like, I understand that the Christian right probably didn't enjoy a lot of this rock and roll music and
Yeah.
just were looking for a reason to not enjoy it actively even more. But how do you get into, oh, this is what it sounds like backwards? I feel like they must have heard it somewhere.
Well, okay, so I don't know exactly. There's no complete history
connective
of
tissue.
like, oh, this is when. But I know in early '82 there was another DJ, this time a Christian DJ, on a Christian radio station,
The plot thickens.
named Paul Croce,
Oh, Paul, that's a connection right there.
and he hosted a show with what the internet describes as a self-described neuroscientist.
Does that mean like self-taught?
I think that means not a scientist. Yeah, I think that means not a scientist.
No one else described him as such.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a self-described scientist.
Yes.
I'm
a ski jumper.
Yeah, he was saying that this is backmasking is happening because the rock stars are cooperating with the Church of Satan in order to gain fame and fortune and success, and they were putting these messages in to create more rank and file members for the Church of Satan by brainwashing the children with hidden messages in the music.
So this is 1982?
1982.
So are we already in the era of LaVeyan Satanism, or is this just...
Oh, yeah, we're deep into it, yeah.
Okay.
Because that was back in the 60s it started.
It was?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess they had the...
We're going to do a whole episode about Satanism probably, but while we're on him,
yeah,
can we just talk about, like, he kind of looked like a tool all the time?
Well,
like, he looked like a party magician, first of all.
Yeah.
And then, like, they have these videos of him wearing, like, felt horns and stuff. I'm like, gosh, who's taking this guy seriously? Who's afraid of this guy?
Well, it's just like any religion. There's a lot of pageantry.
Yeah.
A lot of costumes and added meaning.
All right. Well, listen, it did get pretty serious for Judas Priest.
All right.
Which you mentioned as being a famous case.
Yeah, this is my only knowledge of this comes through Judas Priest.
What do you know about the Judas Priest
Nothing.
situation?
I don't even know what song it is.
You just know that there was a situation.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Judas Priest had to go to court because they were sued after it was alleged that their backmasked messages in their music inspired two young men to commit suicide.
Great.
Now, where did this theory come from?
I'm sure the Christian right loved the Judas Priest band name to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm sure they loved it.
And imagine if they knew back in those times that Rob was a homosexual.
Oh, my gosh. Humanity.
He is dressed like a leather daddy the whole time, but nobody picked up on it because that's just kind of that was a look back then.
Yeah, very subtle.
Yeah. Subtle as queen. All right. So so these two boys were smoking pot and listening to Judas Priest records, drinking beers. For some reason, they decided that, for the reason that they were brainwashed by backmasking, they decided to go to a church playground and shoot themselves with a shotgun. And one of the boys was DOA, but the other one lived for 3 years before dying of complications arising from his attempted suicide.
Right.
And before he died, he stated, quote, "We had been programmed. I knew I was going to do it. I was afraid. I didn't want to die. It's just as if I had no choice." So the men's parents filed a lawsuit which claimed the song was brainwashing listeners to harm themselves with a series of backwards messages saying, "Do it, do it." In their song, "Better You, Better Than Me. Better By You, Better Than Me."
I don't even know that song.
Yeah. I can't claim to be a big Judas Priest fan. I know Breaking the Law and I know Working After Midnight.
Living After Midnight.
Living After Midnight.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I say it 'cause someone did a parody or something, Jerking After Midnight or something. I don't know.
That sounds like, your standard FM radio fare. Excuse me.
So it's kind of funny that this rise in the backmasking controversy, shut up, you asshole, came around the same time as the rise of metal.
Yeah.
Which heavily relied on what they would call satanic
imagery
and presentation, and there's no question that the bands really did. I mean, they really did have like demons and the devil and all sorts of nasty thing on their album covers and stuff like that. But does that mean they're Satanist? Who knows?
Even if it, that's why I wanted to do this topic. Is like I don't know very much about it, but I am a metal enthusiast.
Yeah.
And it just seems to me like that would be so much extra work because so many of those bands were just overtly talking about Satan. Why even bother putting backwards messages in?
I have a great quote from Angus Young on that coming up.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
All right.
On just that line of thought.
Excellent.
But it did get serious for these bands because there was legislation by the state governments of Arkansas and California. In 1983, a California bill was introduced to prevent backmasking that can, quote, manipulate our behavior without our knowledge or consent and turns us into disciples of the Antichrist.
Wait, this was passed or proposed?
It was proposed.
Okay.
It was introduced
All right.
into Congress.
Bipartisan committee.
Yeah.
Our country's cool.
Involved in the discussion of the bill was a California State Assembly Consumer Protection and Toxic Materials Committee hearing, during which Stairway to Heaven was played backwards. And our self-appointed neuroscientist friend testified. The successful bill
What is happening?
made the distribution of records with undeclared backmasking an invasion of privacy, for which the distributor could be sued.
Okay.
That was California. Hold on.
This is amazing.
The Arkansas law passed unanimously in 1983. It referenced albums by the Beatles, Pink Floyd, ELO, Queen, and Styx. It mandated that records with backmasking include a warning sticker that said, quote, warning, this record contains backward masking, which may be perceptible at a subliminal level when a record is played forward. However, the bill was returned to the state Senate by Governor Bill Clinton and defeated. So the man who stopped this bill was Bill Clinton.
Yeah, because he was way into like Venom and Cannibal Corpse and all them.
Yeah.
So.
And he would go on to become the president. Illuminati.
Oh God, are you gonna do one on that? That's not as spooky as this. Isn't a conspiracy theory podcast. Okay, so both the bills passed. You're saying?
Well, they passed certain levels.
They passed,
but they
the
did not
legislatures.
ultimately. Yeah, they did not ultimately become the law of the land. I just banged the fuck out of my foot.
Nice. The governors said, "Cut the shit."
Yeah.
What are you guys doing? My question is, how did they propose to enforce these laws? Was someone?
I guess there was going to be a commissioner of backmasking.
Yeah, there was going to be like a secretary for listening to all this shit, and somehow determining.
They just call up Ethel and say, "Hey, let's listen to the latest Judas Priest record backwards for us. Let us know if you hear anything."
There's nothing there, George. Thank you, Ethel. This is all right.
All right. I'm going to give you a few more examples of backmasking. We're not going to listen to them. I'm just going to talk about them. AC/DC was accused of backmasking messages into their song Highway to Hell. The messages were supposed to include, I am the law. My name is Lucifer. Oh, okay. And she belongs in hell.
Who's she?
I don't know. But
Rosie?
The Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, the serial killer,
Yeah.
claimed that he would listen to the song Highway to Hell before he would go murder people. That song and
Well, I mean, that's a pretty good pump up anthem.
yeah.
Forget
He
murder.
didn't mention the backmasking.
No.
He didn't say he heard subliminal messages. He just said I would just listen to the song.
Just get juiced.
Yeah. I honestly do sing it in the car sometimes before a comedy gig just to get my juices up.
Yeah. And you've never been convicted of a murder?
I have not been convicted.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. AC/DC's Angus Young responded saying, you don't need to play the album backwards because we never hit anything. We called the album Highway to Hell. It was there right in front of them.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great point.
Well,
And
really,
one that you were bringing up earlier.
yeah. And there's a lot worse than that. And I'm sure that the Christian right, and not just the Christian right, probably many social groups are against the overt Satanism in like death metal and
Yeah, it's one thing if you
black
have an
metal
objection to that,
yeah.
and there's plenty to go on.
Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, you don't need to.
And who knows what percentage of those musicians actually believe in any of that stuff or are just doing it.
I guess
They think
probably
it's
what the
cool.
problem. Yeah, I mean, I think probably most of them are just doing it because, like, fuck, it's a cool image, you know?
Yeah.
Like Eddie.
Red and Black.
Eddie from Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
He's badass.
He's sweet.
Is he getting his own video game? I think there's like a RPG coming out.
I'd be surprised if he didn't already have one.
Yeah. But anyway, by the way, there is legitimate backmasking, like we talked about earlier with the Beatles. There is also some with other bands.
Yeah.
However, their messages are not satanic. In fact, most of the time they're kind of making fun of the whole backmasking craze.
Yeah.
And controversy. Like the B-52s put one into one of their songs.
Nice.
And it said something like, "Oh, you're playing this backwards. Be careful, you could ruin your needle." So there was a bunch. There was a bunch like that. Prince did one that wasn't satanic.
Probably something sexy.
It was sexy, actually. Oh, it's at the end of a very sexy song, "Darling Nikki,"
There you go.
which is a great song, actually.
Yeah.
Like, Prince. I respect Prince and everything, but there's maybe like a handful of Prince songs that I really like. But "Darling Nikki's" one of them.
Yeah.
But there's a hidden message at the end where he says, "Hello, how are you? I'm fine. 'Cause I know that the Lord is coming soon. Coming soon." Followed by 37 ahas.
Well, that's interesting.
So is he actually
confusing
talking about
and different?
Jesus, or is he making a lewd comment?
It can be both, I suppose.
Yeah. So what's the hidden message that Prince is sending out?
Well, I don't know, but so I don't know if you have more examples, but we still haven't gotten to. Has anybody ever tried to prove that you can actually absorb these things backwards?
Yes, there have been studies. We're going to get to that
Okay.
kind of
I'll
stuff
wait.
at the end.
I'll
I
wait.
try to save the debunking for the end of the show.
Okay, fair enough.
Before we do that, Queen was also accused. Oh, wait, let's finish talking about the purposeful backmasking. I should have put this one about Queen earlier, but that's all right. Weird Al intentionally backmasked a couple songs,
Oh man.
but one of them was Nature Trail to Hell.
Nice.
You know that one?
Yeah.
Where
The
he's-
old chestnut.
Yeah, he's talking about, like, because it was written in the 80s, so he's talking about all the horror movies that were
Slasher
coming
movies,
out.
yeah.
Slasher movies. Let's see. I did save it somewhere. Okay.
In 3D.
Yeah. All right. This is what he says at the end of the song, Backmasked. Did you catch it?
Cheese?
Satan eats cheese whiz.
See, I couldn't even hear it. Even
in
when
there.
people were trying to do it, I can't make it out.
Yeah, Satan
I
eats
heard
cheese
I got the
whiz.
cheese. It's probably true.
I want to play one by Queen for you. Forward.
Something marijuana? Is that in there?
Depending on...
I decided to fuck marijuana. It's kinda,
all right.
well, that's
Well, most people go with it's fun to smoke marijuana.
okay. I stand by mine.
So not really a satanic message, but I guess
No.
still maybe leading down the path of sin.
I guess so.
And, in moderation, it can be fun.
Yeah.
But I would like to point out that it's not always fun. Like when you do it for the first time and accidentally get super high,
Yeah.
and then you go to Olive Garden and they sit you right by the wait station. And
This
you're
isn't a personal
super
story,
paranoid.
is it?
No, of course not. Just saying, I heard
Okay.
about this guy.
Yep.
Super paranoid, and you're afraid that they're going to think that you're on PCP and call the police on you because you just laughed really hard in the waitress's face when she asked if you wanted salad. I heard that
specifically
kind of
PCP.
Heard that kind
I like
of thing
that
can happen.
poll. Just gonna think I'm on something. PCP, probably PCP. Angel dust? Nah, PCP.
Yeah.
Well, did you want salad?
So I don't remember if I had salad or not.
Right.
But seriously, finishing up our backmasking conversation
Uh-huh.
here. We're going back to the Beatles
Full circle. Let's do it.
because in 1995, as you may recall, the group reformed with, the surviving members to record one song called Free as a Bird.
I do
and-
not recall this.
Okay. It's not a great song.
I think we did it in chorus, but I didn't know it was them.
Yeah. But kind of to be cheeky, I suppose, as they would say over in Liverpool, they stuck something at the end, which was a mask. To be cheeky, as they would say over in Liverpool, they put a hidden message at the end. And it was a recording of John Lennon saying, "It turned out nice again."
Oh, that's kind of nice.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about what you've been trying to get to this whole time, which is what is really happening when we're with
Arguably
Backmasking.
nothing, I would say. But
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Well, as I noted here, some songs do include backmasked messages, but these always sound like gibberish when played forward. There's no song that we've found that's been purposely and clearly backmasked that sounds like perfect English going forward and perfect English going backward.
Sure.
Right? It always sounds fucked up one way or the other. It's never been the case that the musicians or the engineers were able to plan out a phonetic reversal, which is what that would be, where the phrases will make sense both forward and backwards and sound like actual lyrics and fit the music both ways. It's just too difficult to plan it out that way.
Yeah.
It would be incredibly hard. And also, as my super scientific experiment proved, I sang the same words that Robert Plant did, but I don't have the same accent. And, my timing was probably slightly different whenever, and you didn't get all the same words. In fact, there were new words in there, different words in there. So you have to take that into it. You have to sing it exactly the right way as well.
Yeah, but I still don't even think that's like the relevant thing. It's that, you can play it backwards and hear that thing if you did it perfectly, but is there any evidence that our brains can interpret that when it's going the wrong way? And because isn't that what the people were trying to say was wrong with it? Okay.
And the answer, of course, is no.
All right.
There is no evidence.
Okay.
None at all.
And they never even attempted to provide any evidence except for self-described neurology enthusiasts.
As far as I could find. And there were studies done outside of the Christian right that tried to see if it could have any effect. And they noted no effect.
All right. Nifty.
Yep. There are still some unintentional phonetic reversals, such as Queen's Another One Bites the Dust, where you did actually hear the word marijuana. You can hear it
sort of
fairly strong. He says it like it's a bit of a stretch because he does say it with like a weird accent.
Yeah.
Like he says like marijuana.
Yeah.
But
I think is there any evidence that they intentionally did that?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Just
That it's an example. It's an example of a phonetic reversal where it does sound like another word backwards, but it's unintentional.
Now, see, that I believe exists. Like a bunch of kids who just do nothing but listen to songs backwards, looking for that, so that they can show their friends, be like, you play this backwards, it says this thing.
Yeah, well, that kind of stuff. I mean, this is slightly different.
Not even attaching significance to it.
Just, the whole thing with the Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon, like that was huge when I was in high school. We'd have like parties to do that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, who really gives a shit? But it was kind of fun.
Yeah. Little synchronicity in the world.
All right. So the most likely culprit is an audio form of our old friend, Pareidolia. Now, if you listen to... Go ahead. Tell us.
No, I think I just heard that, and you're going to tell me why.
You did just hear it because you mixed the first episode.
Okay, all right.
Which was about shadow people. And in shadow people, I mentioned Pareidolia.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get t-shirts made that just say, it's Pareidolia. Because it explains a lot of paranormal things.
Okay.
But what it is the tendency of humans to find patterns even where none exist. But it is helped along by something called the observer expectancy effect, which is also something that you mentioned when you said, I did hear it, but you had kind of primed me for it because you already told me. So that's what it is. Meaning that if you expect to hear a hidden message when you play a song backwards, you most likely will hear a hidden message when you play the song backwards, even though others will still only hear random noise. And even if you are told there is a hidden message, if you are not told explicitly what the message is supposed to be, you probably won't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
It's only once you are told exactly what you're supposed to be listening for that it will suddenly become clear.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that's sort of what happened on the Facebook test. Once I said, listen close and maybe you can hear, what was it? My mother made a bad boy.
My mother made a bad boy. That's the T-shirt.
My mother made a bad boy. What I want is the Illuminati pyramid with the eye of Providence.
Absolutely, I'm in.
With that on the bottom.
Yeah.
My mother made a bad boy, and then on the back,
Sad
hashtag
Satan.
Pareidolia. No, Sad Satan is trademark to Led
really?
Zeppelin.
Oh, okay.
It should be. I don't
Yeah.
all right. So yeah, when I did the Facebook test, they suddenly heard my mother made a bad boy, and what was the other one?
Shares her fate, whatever.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Suffering fate.
Satan.
Yeah. Oh,
Yada,
my
yada.
mother who suffers their fate.
Yeah.
So, I didn't write the words, but people were hearing me talk about my mother a lot.
Yeah.
But yet when Robert Plant sings it, there's no mention of mother. It's just about sad Satan torturing them in a little tool shed.
Oh man, this is so crazy.
Yeah, you have to jump on the crazy train to go along with a lot of these.
Ooh, speaking of which, was Ozzy ever... I mean, Ozzy was kind of cited for more of his overt references to the
he
occult
was.
and Satanism, but...
Because suicide is... What was the song
Suicide
about suicide?
Solution?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one he got in big trouble for.
Yeah.
He did come up, but it wasn't anything that interesting. I forget what it was. I didn't write it down.
And not to jump around, but so how did this, when Judas Priest and these other bands were taken to court for this, how did that end up?
Ugh.
It didn't go... Because
No.
I think I saw footage on MTV or VH1 or something. And I think it was Rob Halford testifying in an actual courtroom that he did not intentionally backmask something. It was something along the lines of, Satan, I love you, I don't know. I'm not going to do it justice, but that was a real court case that was brought before a judge, and there might have even been a jury and everything. And
it was 30 years ago, as of December 23rd this past year.
Yeah, anniversary.
So just past the 30th anniversary of this incident.
And I can't imagine any judgment came of it, but maybe it did. Maybe they had to pay $10,000 or something. I don't like this phrase, but if you're ever going to use it, your tax dollars at work would apply to a lot of these situations.
Okay, so the legal protection of lyrics and free speech had already been tested, perhaps most notably during the roughly concurrent trial accusing Ozzy Osbourne of driving a fan to suicide with his song Suicide Solution.
Oh, boy.
But the Priest case proceeded thanks to a legal twist. Commenting on whether or not the song in question actually included subliminal messages, the presiding judge ruled that so-called subliminals don't constitute actual speech and therefore are not protected by the First Amendment. I don't know what subliminals are, but I do know there's nothing like this in the music, band manager Bill Kirbishley said before the trial.
It's so weird.
If you're going to do that, we'd say buy 7 copies, not tell a couple of screwed up kids to kill themselves.
Another good pull quote.
This is from an article on ultraclassicrock.com, by the way, entitled 30 years ago, two Judas Priest fans attempted suicide. Parents blame subliminal lyrics. Okay, the case was ultimately dismissed.
Yeah.
So, going back to a topic that you raised earlier, because I'm probably going to cut out a lot of what we just did.
Fair enough.
A point, I don't know if I made this point or if I just thought about it, so tell me if I said this already. But I think that the reason why they were looking, instead of looking at the overt messages in the music, they wanted to focus on subliminal messages, is because they knew that they couldn't sue them for the overt messages, because it is free speech and it is protected. But subliminal, if people are doing something without your consent or against your will, going to say that again in case I don't think it picked up the sirens, but just in case. If people are doing something, I don't know what I said, so I'm not going to do that. If there's a siren, you heard it. That's all. Sorry, folks.
That's interesting. So it could be argued that they were actually being smart about it and trying to find a legal loophole to where they could punish these people for making evil rock and roll.
Right. I mean,
crafty.
smart in an asshole-y kind of way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, in a terrible, indefensible way. But points. Points, Christian Wright.
Yeah. Well, guess what?
Not too bad.
I think that's the end of my notes about this.
All right. Well, seems like a whole lot of nothing in the end. And this has not gone through any sort of resurgence or anything. Like, this seems to be... We've all kind of moved on about this.
Not true.
Not true. All right.
Jay-Z is... First of all...
Oh, no!
Yeah. He's often, for some reason, listed as being an Illuminati member. As is Beyonce, as is a bunch of people.
Most richest, powerfulest person in the world. That helps, I suppose.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of stuff. You can find YouTube videos for days on this stuff about people doing Illuminati and satanic symbols and Satan in the music industry and all this stuff.
No thanks.
But anytime they do like the diamond hand shape, where you kind of just put your hands together and make it like a diamond shape with your thumb and index fingers, that's supposed to be like the pyramid.
Sure.
So I guess it's more of a pyramid shape than a diamond. Or if you cover one eye, that's supposed to be the Eye of Providence.
Great.
Which is another Illuminati Satanist symbol.
Good times. Didn't Diamond Dallas Page do that? Wasn't that his
He
thing?
did. Well, actually, there's a whole thing. All right. We're going to step on the episode about Satanic Panic a little bit. But
okay.
But there's a
this
whole...
is a teaser.
There's a whole theory about that because the NWO, New World Order, is allegedly another, if not the Illuminati itself, an Illuminati-like group. And the theory is that they purposely put the New World Order, NWO, into professional wrestling to make it a joke, so that when people brought up the real New World Order, people would say, "Isn't that the thing that Hulk Hogan runs?" So having Diamond Dallas Page use that as his symbol, that could be another example of them trying to, make it something that people would mock when brought up.
Well, yes. It
Again,
continues.
It's a whole nother episode, but there's a lot of...
Oh gosh, this podcast has everything.
It's a rich.
We worked in wrestling. We did it
to explore.
All right. Well, what do you think the overall spookiness rating for this one was?
I thought it would be spookier, but I think we mocked it too much to be really spooky.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it too because I think it deserves to be mocked, which is
roundly.
Yeah, something we try to do. All right, so I don't know what I'd give it for a spookiness rating. I mean, I think it's spookier than like talking about old Halloween-themed cartoons or something, which we'll probably do at some point. Yeah. So maybe a 2?
Yeah.
I don't know how high the scale goes.
It's not important, yeah.
I don't know.
On a scale from 1 to 666.
There we go. All right, so listen. This has been the Spooky Ass Shit podcast. And if you have any spooky ass questions or comments or show ideas, go ahead and shoot me an email at spookyasshit@gmail, all one word, gmail.com, if I have to say that. All right. So I haven't really come up with a great way to say goodbye. I've just been winging it, but I think this is pretty good. So I think this might just be how I say goodbye from now on. Don't be afraid.
Like it.
Dear feet mud. Dear feet mud. Yo, mad, but he rhythm now.